The silence of deep space always unnerved Lieutenant Mitchell Rain. 17 years as a scout pilot, and still that vast emptiness made his skin crawl. He guided his shuttle through the orbital approach to Viral 9, the rogue moon's frozen surface gleaming beneath him like a polished pearl. "Command, this is Scout 7, commencing final survey pattern over Northern Quadrant." Mitchell reported, his voice echoing in the cramped cockpit. Static crackled before a response came through. "Copy that, Scout 7. Remember, this is observational only, no surface contact." Mitchell smirked. "When have I ever broken protocol, Command?" The silence that followed made him chuckle. He'd earned his reputation as a maverick, but he was damn good at his job. The best scout in the fleet, they said, though, never to his face. Viral 9 was unlike anything in the charted systems. A moon thrown from its planet during some ancient cosmic catastrophe, it had developed its own ecosystem, despite the crushing cold. His sensors mapped the surface below an ice wilderness, punctuated by towering organic structures that scientists had dubbed hive trees. Massive botanical growths that somehow thrived in this frozen hell, generating enough heat through some unknown biological process to create pockets of habitability. Mitchell adjusted his trajectory, flying lower to capture better readings. The hive trees rose like cathedrals from the ice, steam billowing from their upper chambers, where thermal vents released excess heat. "Strange readings on the northwest cluster," he muttered, more to himself than to Command. "Something's different about the thermal signature in this region." His sensors flickered, suddenly, instruments stuttering before stabilizing again. "That's new," he frowned, tapping the console. "Command, I'm getting unusual electromagnetic interference near the largest hive cluster." No response, just empty static. Mitchell banked the shuttle, circling the massive hive tree at the center of the anomaly. "Command, do you copy? I'm going to—" The ship lurched violently. Warning sirens blared as the control panel flashed red across every system. Mitchell's hands flew across the control's muscle memory, taking over. Thruster failure. Repeat primary and secondary thrusters failing. The shuttle pitched downward, breaking free of its stable orbit. Emergency protocols engaged, attempting manual override. The override failed, as did the backup systems. As the shuttle plummeted toward the surface, Mitchell's final thought was irritation rather than fear. His perfect flight record ruined. Command would never let him live this down. If he lived at all. Impact came with a scream of tearing metal. Mitchell's head slammed against the control panel despite his harness, and darkness swallowed him whole. Cold. That was his first sensation. A bone-deep, merciless cold that cut through his flight suit like it was nothing. Mitchell's eyes fluttered open to blinding whiteness. Snow. He was half buried in it, lying amid twisted wreckage that had once been his shuttle. Blood trickled down his face, instantly freezing on his cheek. Every breath sent shards of pain through his chest, broken ribs probably. With agonizing slowness, he dragged himself from the wreckage, the blizzard's howling winds slicing at any exposed skin. His emergency beacon, had to activate it, had to... Mitchell fumbled at his wrist fingers, numb and clumsy, trying to engage the distress signal. The device sparked, damaged from the impact. Useless. "Perfect," he croaked, voice lost in the howling storm. No communications, no beacon, no shelter. Command wouldn't miss him for at least 16 hours, standard check-in protocol. In these temperatures, he'd be frozen solid long before then. Mitchell staggered to his feet, swaying as the world tilted around him. Had to find shelter. Move. The nearest hive tree loomed perhaps half a kilometer away, a dark silhouette against the white-out conditions. It might offer some protection from the elements if he could reach it. One step, another. The wind pushed against him like a living opponent, each gust threatening to topple him. His extremities lost feeling, bad sign. His training reminded him of how quickly frostbite could set in. Funny, he thought distantly, how death by freezing was supposed to feel like falling asleep. He didn't feel sleepy, just angry. angry at the shuttle for failing at command, for sending him alone at this damn moon, for being so unforgivingly cold. The hive tree seemed no closer despite his efforts. Mitchell stumbled, falling to his knees in the snow. Getting up seemed an insurmountable task. Maybe he could rest just for a moment. Through heavy eyelids, Mitchell noticed something strange. Lights. Soft, pulsing blue-green lights moving through the blizzard toward him. Not the harsh beams of rescue spotlights, but something organic, almost jellyfish-like in their undulation. Hallucinations. Had to be. The final gift of a freezing brain. The lights drew closer, surrounding him in their ethereal glow. Mitchell thought he saw a shape moving within them, tall, broad, covered in fur. His mind grasped for rational explanation before giving up entirely. As consciousness slipped away, he felt something tremendously strong, yet surprisingly gentle, lift him from the snow. His last sensation was warmth. Unexpected, impossible warmth, and the soft brush of something that felt like velvet against his frozen cheek. Warmth embraced him, like an old friend. Mitchell drifted in and out of consciousness, aware only of the pleasant heat suffusing his broken body. Something soft cradled him, not a bed exactly, but a nest-like depression, lined with what felt like silk. Steam hissed nearby and the air carried unfamiliar scents. Something herbal, something sweet, something musky. When his eyes finally opened fully, Mitchell found himself staring up at a domed ceiling of fibrous material, glowing with the same bioluminescence he'd seen in the storm. Was he inside one of the hive trees? The walls curved, organically fashioned from some kind of interwoven plant matter, strengthened with a resinous substance that gleamed in the soft light. He tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain lanced through his ribcage. "Stay still, strange one." The voice was unlike anything Mitchell had ever heard, melodic with a purring undertone that vibrated in his chest. "Your bones mend. Time needs." Mitchell's head snapped toward the sound, sending another wave of pain through him. There, at the edge of his nest, was a being that defied all his expectations. She, and Mitchell was somehow certain it was female, stood nearly 7 feet tall, with proportions both alien and familiar. Bipedal, with a face that suggested a feline ancestry, though nothing so simple as a cat person. Her body was covered in plush white fur that shimmered with faint, bioluminescent patterns, thicker around her shoulders and chest in a luxurious mane. 2 sharp, elegant horns curved from her forehead, and her eyes, gods, her eyes were enormous, pupilless pools of swirling silver blue, like liquid mercury. "What?" Mitchell's voice cracked. "What are you—" The creature's face contorted in what might have been amusement. "I am Riona. You are Nest Prize." "Nest Prize," Mitchell repeated, bewildered. "Yes." She moved closer, her movements fluid and powerful. "I find, I claim, I keep." Mitchell tried to process this information through his fog of pain and confusion. "You rescued me." "Yes. Found in snow. Broken. Cold." Riona's head tilted. Now warm. Now healing. She reached toward him with a hand that was not quite a paw, not quite human, 5 digits ending in retractable claws, covered in shorter, silkier fur than the rest of her body. Mitchell flinched involuntarily. Riona paused, those mercury eyes studying him. "Fear not. Will not harm Nest Prize." Her voice dropped to that strange, resonant purr. "Will groom. Will heal." Before Mitchell could object, she moved closer and began running her handpaws through his hair in long, gentle strokes. The sensation was both alien and oddly comforting. Her touch was cautious around his injuries, careful not to disturb the strange resin-like bandages that had been applied to his worst wounds. "I don't understand," Mitchell said, though he made no move to stop her ministrations. The grooming was oddly soothing. "What do you mean, Nest Prize?" Riona continued her methodical grooming. "I am Scout. Find things of value. You valuable. Bring to nest." Her silvery eyes blinked slowly. "You stay. My prize." The implication slowly dawned on him. Wait, you think you own me? Not own. Riona seemed to struggle with the concept. Claim, protect, care for, bond with. She gestured to the nest around them. My territory, my find, my prize. Mitchell attempted to sit up again, moving more cautiously this time. Look, I appreciate the rescue truly, but I need to contact my people. There's a command station in orbit that... Riona placed a gentle but firm paw on his shoulder. Metal shell broken. Small metal things scattered. Nothing works. She made a huffing sound. Storm comes again soon. Rest now. Talk after. Mitchell wanted to argue, but exhaustion pulled at him. His injuries throbbed, and the warmth of the nest beckoned him back to sleep. Whatever Riona had bound his wounds with seemed to be working. The pain was already less intense than it should have been. Fine, he conceded. But after the storm, we talk about getting me home. Riona's fanged mouth curved in what might have been a smile. This home now, she said simply, and resumed her grooming. Too tired to argue further, Mitchell let the rhythmic strokes of her paws lull him back to sleep. His last waking thought was that Command would never believe this rescued by a giant purring alien who thought he was some kind of pet prize. Whatever she meant, it was better than freezing to death in the snow. For now, at least he would accept her care. Tomorrow would bring clarity, and hopefully, a way home. Days passed in a haze of healing and growing cultural bewilderment. Mitchell's injuries improved with surprising rapidity, thanks to Riona's ministrations and the strange medicinal pastes she applied to his wounds. The resin bandages, he learned, were infused with enzymes harvested from the hive tree itself, a symbiotic relationship between the beast people and their living homes. Riona was relentless in her attentions. Each morning began with grooming, her large paws combing through his hair and beard, straightening his clothing, or what remained of it, checking his healing wounds. She seemed puzzled by his lack of fur, often making sounds of what Mitchell interpreted as pity, while wrapping him in soft, pelt-like blankets. Too bare, she would say, shaking her head. How survive cold? We have technology. Mitchell tried to explain, gesturing to his tattered flight suit. Insulated clothing, heated shelters. Riona's silver eyes blinked slowly. Technology breaks, she said simply. Fur is better. Hard to argue with that logic given his current situation. As his strength returned, Mitchell began exploring Riona's home within the massive hive tree. The structure was astonishing, a living organism hollowed out and shaped through generations of careful cultivation. The interior was honeycombed with chambers connected by spiraling organic walkways and woven rope bridges. Steam vents throughout provided warmth and humidity, creating a microclimate drastically different from the frozen wasteland outside. Other beast people lived in the hive, though fewer than Mitchell would have expected, given the size of the structure. They were similar to Riona in build, though, with variations in fur color and pattern. Most gave him a wide berth, watching with undisguised curiosity, but maintaining distance. Some made threatening displays when he came too close to their nests, bearing fangs, fur bristling along their spines. They fear you, Mitchell asked Riona after one such encounter. No, respect my claim, she corrected. You are nest prize, mine. Her chest puffed slightly. Good find. Strong despite no fur. Shows my skill as scout. Mitchell was beginning to understand the social dynamics at play. Riona's status seemed elevated by her discovery of him, like a hunter returning with an impressive trophy. Yet there was nothing cruel in her treatment of him. If anything, she was overprotective, growling when others approached too closely, always positioning herself between him and potential threats. On the 5th day, Mitchell finally met the hive's leadership. Riona led him to a large central chamber, warmed by a massive thermal vent. Steam billowed around a circle of elevated platforms, where 7 elderly beastwomen sat in postures of obvious authority. Their fur had faded to pale gray or white, and elaborate jewelry of bone and crystal adorned their horns. Matrons, Riona announced, bowing her head slightly. I present my nest prize, healed enough for judgment. Mitchell straightened, suddenly aware that he was being evaluated. The central matron, larger than the others with intricate patterns, shaved into her fur, leaned forward. "I am Matron Kira," she said, her command of human language surprisingly fluent compared to Riona's. "Mother of Riona, mother of mothers in this hive," her mercury eyes fixed on Mitchell. "You are strange prize human." Mitchell gave a respectful nod. "Lieutenant Mitchell Rain, ma'am. I'm grateful for your daughter's rescue and the hospitality of your hive." Kira's ears twitched. "Lieutenant," she repeated, the word awkward in her mouth. "This is rank place in your hive." "Yes, in a manner of speaking. I'm a scout pilot for the Survey Corps." A ripple of murmuring passed through the matrons at this revelation. Kira's eyes narrowed. "Scout, like Riona," she seemed pleased by this parallel. "But you fly in metal shell, not run on ice." "Exactly," Mitchell confirmed. "My shuttle crashed during a survey mission. I need to contact my people in orbit. They'll be searching for me." Kira exchanged looks with the other matrons. "Metal pieces have been gathered. Nothing works as you need." She gestured to a pile of twisted components that Mitchell recognized as parts of his communication array. "Beyond salvaging." "Then I need to build a signal beacon," Mitchell said. "If I could have access to those parts, plus any conductive materials you might have—" "No," interrupted one of the other matrons sharply. This one's fur was streaked with russet, her expression hostile. "We cannot allow signal to sky people. They will come, take, destroy." Mitchell turned to this new speaker. "With respect, they're already here. My people have been observing Viral 9 for months. They mean no harm." "Veli speaks of old warnings," Riona explained quietly to Mitchell. "Our history tells of others who came from sky. Took sisters. Took secrets." Veli hissed. "And now Riona brings one directly into our heart. This is foolishness. We should—" "Enough," Kira's voice cut through the tension. "The human is Riona's claim properly made. She has right of nest prize." Her gaze returned to Mitchell. "But you must prove worth, Lieutenant. Must contribute to hive. Must learn our ways." Mitchell recognized the diplomatic opening being offered. "I understand," he said carefully. "I respect your concerns. While I'm here, I'll abide by your customs and contribute however I can." Kira nodded, seemingly satisfied. "Good. Riona will teach. You will learn." She made a dismissive gesture. "Go now. Return to nest." As Riona led him away, Mitchell felt Veli's hostile gaze burning into his back. One ally in the matron circle, Riona's mother, wasn't much security, but it was something to build on. "That went better than expected," he murmured to Riona as they crossed a swaying bridge to her territory. Riona's tail flicked anxiously. "Veli wants you for her nest, or dead. Same wish, different approach." Mitchell nearly missed a step. "Wait, she wants me for herself? I thought she hated outsiders." "Hates, yes, but recognizes valuable find." Riona's fur bristled slightly. "Will challenge my claim if given reason." "And what would qualify as a reason?" Riona's mercury eyes fixed on him with sudden intensity. "If you reject my care, if you flee, if you harm hive." Her voice lowered. "If bond fails to grow." Mitchell felt a weight of responsibility settle on him. His survival and potentially peaceful contact between their species depended on navigating this complex social territory. He'd need to balance his need to return to his people with respect for Riona's customs. "I won't reject your care," he assured her, placing a hand on her furred arm. The gesture felt natural now, where days ago it would have seemed alien. "You saved my life. I don't forget debts like that." A rumbling purr vibrated from Riona's chest, the first time she'd made such a sound in response to his touch. "Good nest prize," she said, and there was something in her tone that hadn't been there before. Something warmer. Back in Riona's nest, she resumed her now familiar grooming ritual. But this time, Mitchell found himself actively leaning into her touch, the comfort of it no longer strange, but welcome. As her claws gently combed through his hair, He closed his eyes. "Tell me about the M," he said quietly. "I've heard whispers about it since I arrived." Riona's paws paused momentarily before resuming their rhythm. "Ancient one," she said, voice hushed with reverence. "Sleeps beneath ice. Roots of hive trees reach down to touch its dreams. A creature living under the ice." "Yes. No." Riona seemed to struggle with the explanation. "More than creature, less than God. It dreams, and dreams make warmth, make life possible." Mitchell tried to piece this together with what he knew of Viral 9's unusual geothermal properties. Could there actually be some massive organism beneath the surface, generating the heat that allowed these hive trees to exist? The scientist in him was skeptical, but he'd seen enough wonders in his career to keep an open mind. "How do you know it's there?" "Feel its pulse," Riona said simply, placing a paw over her chest. "Through roots, through stone, rhythms in the deep." She leaned closer. "Sometimes it speaks to matrons, in dreams only." The conversation was interrupted by a distant resonating howl that made Mitchell's skin prickle. Riona immediately tensed her fur, standing on end. "What is that?" Mitchell asked, alarmed by her reaction. "Ice hunters," she growled. "Pack predators. Scent blood and metal." Her eyes narrowed. "Scent you." Another howl, closer this time, was answered by several others from different directions. "They hunt your crash site," Riona explained, moving to a storage alcove and retrieving what appeared to be a spear fashioned from a crystalline material. "Find your scent trail. Follow to hive." Mitchell's mind raced. "Will they attack the hive?" "If hungry enough." Riona handed him a smaller weapon, a curved knife made from the same crystal-like substance. "Must defend." Despite his still healing injuries, Mitchell felt a surge of determination. This was his chance to prove his worth to the hive, to show he wasn't just a burden to be cared for. "Where will they come from?" Riona led him to the edge of her territory, where a platform overlooked one of the hive tree's massive roots, extending out onto the ice. "Lower levels, where root meets ground. Weakest point." Other beast people were already gathering, armed with similar weapons. Mitchell noted that most were younger, athletic individuals, the hive's defenders. Vayli was among them, her russet-streaked fur distinctive. She bared her fangs when she saw Mitchell. "Human brings danger," she snarled. "Should throw to hunters. End threat." "I can help fight," Mitchell countered, holding up his crystal blade. "They're following my scent, yes, but I won't hide while others defend me." Vayli seemed taken aback by his willingness to fight. Before she could respond, a chorus of howls erupted from below, much closer now. Through the swirling snow, Mitchell caught glimpses of movement, pale shapes charging up the massive route toward the hive entrance. The ice hunters were nightmarish creatures, six-limbed predators, with elongated eyeless heads and ghostly translucent skin, through which their internal organs were faintly visible. They moved with unnatural speed, claws digging into the frozen bark of the root as they climbed. "Hold line," Riona shouted, taking a position at the forefront of the defenders. "Protect softcore." The defenders formed a semicircle at the widest part of the route, creating a bottleneck. Mitchell positioned himself at Riona's side, ignoring the pain that flared in his ribs as he braced for combat. The first hunter reached them with a shrieking cry. Riona met it with her spear, driving the crystalline tip into its chest cavity. The creature convulsed, its clear blood steaming in the cold air, before toppling from the root into the abyss below. More followed. Mitchell found himself facing one that lunged directly for him, perhaps drawn by his unfamiliar scent. He sidestepped his pilot's reflexes, serving him well, and slashed with his blade. The crystal cut deep into the creature's flank, drawing a high-pitched wail of pain. The wounded hunter rounded on him faster than he anticipated. Its front limbs lashed out, catching Mitchell across the chest and sending him sprawling. He felt his recently healed wounds threaten to reopen as the creature pounced. In a blur of white fur, Riona intercepted the hunter mid-leap, her jaws closing around its throat with bone-crushing force. She shook once violently, and the predator went limp. "Mitchell," she growled, concern evident in her voice. "I'm fine," he gasped, regaining his feet. "Keep fighting." The battle continued, fierce but brief. The defenders' superior position and weaponry proved decisive against the hungry but uncoordinated hunters. When half their number lay dead, the remaining predators retreated, slinking back into the swirling snow. As the defenders celebrated their victory, Mitchell found himself the center of unexpected attention. He had fought alongside them, had drawn blood, had stood his ground. Even Veli gave him a grudging nod of acknowledgement before stalking away. Riona pressed her forehead to his, a gesture he'd come to recognize as one of affection and relief. "Fought well," she said, her voice thick with pride. "Proved worth to doubters." Mitchell realized she was right. The dynamics had shifted. He was no longer just a strange curiosity or burden, but someone who had bled in defense of the hive. It was a powerful form of acceptance, one earned rather than granted. That night, as Riona applied fresh medicinal paste to the new scratches on his chest, her grooming took on a different quality. More intimate, more deliberate. She rumbled with that deep, pleasant purr whenever he responded to her touch. "What happens now?" Mitchell asked, watching the patterns of bioluminescence pulse softly through her fur. "Now we are bonded by battle," she said simply. "Stronger claim, deeper connection." Her mercury eyes studied him. "Still want to signal sky people?" The question caught Mitchell off guard. Of course he did, didn't he? His duty was to report back, to return to his post. Yet something had changed during the battle. Fighting alongside Riona, protecting her home. It had awakened something primal in him that transcended his military training. "I need to let them know I'm alive," he said carefully. "They'll be searching. Could accidentally harm the hive if they don't know what's here." Riona considered this, her expression thoughtful. "Truth in this," she conceded. "But signal brings them here, brings Veli's fears to life." "Not if we control the encounter," Mitchell suggested. "Set terms, show strength." A slow smile spread across Riona's features. "Clever nest prize," she purred approvingly. "Think like matron." Mitchell found himself smiling back, strangely pleased by her praise. "Tomorrow we'll speak with Kira. Propose a controlled contact." Riona nodded, then hesitated. With deliberate movements, she began arranging the nest, creating a depression perfectly sized for two bodies. An invitation. Mitchell understood the significance immediately. In Riona's culture, sharing a nest was an unmistakable declaration. Not just protection or ownership, but partnership, companionship. Perhaps even more. He should refuse. Maintain professional distance. Remember his duty to the Survey Corps, to humanity. Instead, he settled into the space she had created, their bodies fitting together, as if designed for this proximity. Her fur was impossibly soft against his skin, her warmth enveloping him like a living blanket. The rumble of her purr vibrated through his chest, syncing with his heartbeat, until he couldn't tell where his rhythms ended and hers began. As sleep claimed him, Mitchell realized with startling clarity that going home had become a far more complicated proposition than he'd ever anticipated. The tremors began in the early hours, subtle at first, just a faint vibration through the floor of the nest. Mitchell stirred his soldier's instincts, bringing him instantly awake. Beside him, Riona was already alert, her ears swiveled toward the floor, mercury eyes wide. "The M stirs," she whispered, an unfamiliar note of awe in her voice. The vibrations intensified, rattling the ornaments, hanging from the nest's edges. Not violent enough to cause damage, but unmistakable. Throughout the hive, Mitchell could hear the sounds of movement, voices calling to one another in the beast people's native language, a complex series of purrs, growls, and melodic vocalizations. "Is this dangerous?" Mitchell asked, sitting up. "Some kind of earthquake?" Riona shook her head. "Not danger. Message." She placed her paw flat against the floor. "Pattern is unusual, frequent, urgent." Before Mitchell could question further, a younger Beastwoman appeared at the entrance to their nest chamber, breathless with excitement, or fear. "Matrons summon," she announced. "All scouts, all guardians." Her gaze lingered curiously on Mitchell. The human also. The central chamber was crowded when they arrived, filled with beast people from every level of the hive. The matrons occupied their elevated platforms, faces solemn, as the floor continued to vibrate beneath them. Kira raised her hands, and an immediate hush fell over the gathering. "The M speaks with new voice," she announced, her tone grave. Pattern not seen in 7 generations, her mercury eyes fixed on Mitchell. "Since last Sky people came." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Bailey stepped forward, fur bristling. "It warns of the human," she declared. "Warns of danger to come?" "No," countered another matron, this one with silver-tipped fur. "Pattern is not warning, is question." Kira nodded. "Ikala speaks truth. The M asks rather than tells." She gestured to Mitchell. "Come forward, Lieutenant." Mitchell approached the matron's circle, conscious of countless eyes upon him. The vibrations continued beneath his feet, following a rhythm that did seem deliberate, rather than random, almost like code. "What would you have me do?" he asked Kira. "Listen," she said simply. "Feel pulse of the M. Tell what it means to you." Mitchell hesitated, then knelt and placed his palm against the floor, as he'd seen Ryona do. The vibrations traveled up his arm into his chest, resonating in his bones. There was a pattern, 3 short pulses, 3 long, 3 short again. Repeated. "It's Morse code," he said, suddenly looking up in astonishment. "An old human communication system. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short, that's SOS. A distress signal." Shocked silence greeted his words. "The M speaks human tongue," Bailey sputtered, disbelieving. "Or recognizes human presence," Kira suggested, leaning forward with interest. "What does SOS mean, Lieutenant?" "It means save our souls," Mitchell explained. "It's a call for help used by people in danger or stranded." Another wave of murmurs swept the chamber. Ryona moved to Mitchell's side, her posture protective. "The M never speaks without purpose," said Akala thoughtfully. "If it calls for help in human tongue—" "Sky people are here," interrupted a new voice. A young scout burst into the chamber, breathless. 3 metal eyes in sky, 1 larger metal shell descending. The hive erupted into chaos. Matrons shouting orders, warriors grabbing weapons, younger beast people being herded to upper levels. Mitchell caught Riona's arm. "Drones," he explained quickly. "Followed by a shuttle. They're looking for me. I need to make contact before there's a misunderstanding." Kira silenced the chaos with a commanding growl. "Lieutenant speaks truth. His people search." Her gaze swept the chamber. "We must decide. Fight, hide, speak." "Fight," Bailey declared immediately. "Protect the M. Protect our secrets." "No," Mitchell countered. "These aren't warriors, they're scientists, engineers. They've come to find me, not to threaten you." "How can we trust your words?" challenged Bailey. Ryona stepped forward. "Trust battle bond." Mitchell fought for Hive, bled for Hive. Her voice rang with conviction. "Could have signaled before. Chose to speak with matrons first. Shows respect." A tense silence followed her defense. Mitchell realized he was witnessing a crucial moment in this society's history, perhaps the first diplomatic contact between humans and the beast people of Viral 9. Everything hinged on what happened next. "I propose a fire circle," he said, drawing on what he'd learned of their customs. "A formal meeting. 1 human representative. 1 voice from each family group. Equal terms." Kira's eyes widened slightly, impressed by his knowledge of their traditions. "The human invokes ancient right," she noted. "Shows understanding." "I accept fire circle," Ryona declared immediately. One by one, other voices joined Akala, 3 other matrons, several warriors. Bailey remained opposed, but found herself outvoted. "It is decided," Kira announced. "We will meet the Sky people in fire circle. Lieutenant will signal them. Terms will be set." Her gaze hardened. "But we show strength, not weakness. Ryona, take your nest prize to highest platform. Let him signal from position of power, surrounded by our strongest." Mitchell nodded his understanding. This was diplomacy beast person style: extend one paw in greeting, while keeping the other on your weapon. The highest platform of the hive tree offered a breathtaking view of the frozen landscape. From here, Mitchell could see the Survey Corps drones, small silver discs hovering just beyond throwing distance, and the shuttle that had landed perhaps a kilometer away. Smart, he noted. Close enough to reach quickly, far enough to retreat if necessary. Using components salvaged from his crash, plus materials provided by the hive's crafters, Mitchell had constructed a simple signal device. Nothing sophisticated, just enough to transmit basic code to the drones, which would relay to the shuttle. "Ready?" Riona asked, standing tall beside him. She wore ceremonial ornaments on her horns and across her chest, symbols of her status as a senior scout. "Ready," Mitchell confirmed, activating the device. He transmitted a short, clear message. "Rain alive. First contact protocol. Single rep to coordinates." The response was immediate. One of the drones broke formation, swooping closer to the hive tree before retreating back toward the shuttle. 20 minutes later, Mitchell spotted a single figure emerging from the shuttle, picking its way carefully across the ice field toward the coordinates. He'd specified a flat area at the base of the hive tree's largest external root. "They come," he told Kira, who had joined them on the platform, along with a carefully chosen delegation of beast people. "One person as requested." Kira nodded in approval. "We go to fire circle. Remember terms. No weapons drawn unless threat shown. No promises made without matron approval." The descent through the hive was solemn, almost ceremonial. By unspoken agreement, the beast people had adorned themselves in their most impressive regalia: bone ornaments, crystal jewelry, ceremonial furs. A show of cultural sophistication as much as strength. They emerged onto the massive route as the human representative approached. Mitchell recognized the figure immediately: Commander Kander Tavala, his direct superior. Trust command to send the highest-ranking officer in the sector for this moment. Tavala stopped at the prescribed distance, hands visible and empty. The commander's expression when they spotted Mitchell among the beast people cycled rapidly from shock to relief to confusion. "Lieutenant Rain," Tavala called. "Good to see you alive." "Commander," Mitchell acknowledged. "Thank you for honoring the contact protocols." Tavala's eyes never stopped moving, cataloging the beast people's appearance, weapons, positions. Always the tactician. "You've made friends, I see." Mitchell turned to Kira, who gave a subtle nod of permission. "Commander Tavala, may I present Matron Kira, leader of this hive. Matron, this is Commander Kander Tavala of the Human Survey Corps." Kira stepped forward, her impressive height allowing her to look down slightly at the human commander. "Sky person," she acknowledged. "You enter territory of Frostclaw Hive. State purpose." To Tavala's credit, there was only the slightest hesitation before responding with formal dignity. "Matron Kira, I come seeking my missing officer and to establish peaceful contact with your people." "First purpose achieved," Kira noted. "Second purpose requires fire circle." Tavala looked to Mitchell for explanation. "A formal negotiation ritual," Mitchell clarified. "Sacred diplomatic ground where all voices are heard equally. I've promised them we'll respect their customs." The commander's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. "Lieutenant, your first duty is to the Corps. Standard rescue protocol." "With respect, Commander," Mitchell interrupted. "Standard protocol doesn't apply here. These people saved my life. They deserve our respect, not our protocols." Riona moved subtly closer to Mitchell, a gesture of support that didn't go unnoticed by Tavala. The commander's eyes narrowed, taking in their proximity, the matching ornaments they wore, symbols of their bond that needed no translation. "I see," Tavala said slowly. "Very well. I'll participate in this fire circle." The fire circle was prepared in a sheltered alcove at the base of the hive tree, protected from the worst of the wind. As tradition demanded, a circular pit was quickly excavated in the packed snow, lined with stones harvested from the hive's collection. In the center, a carefully tended flame fueled by oils, extracted from the hive tree itself, burned with surprising intensity, casting dancing shadows across the gathered faces. 7 representatives formed the circle, Kira for the matrons Veli, for the warriors, Ryona for the scouts. 2 other beast people representing different family groups. Commander Tavala and Mitchell himself, occupying an unusual position as both human and nest claimed. Fire circle begins, Kira announced, making a ritualistic gesture over the flames. All speak truth or face bite of winter. All listen with open ears, or face wrath of the M. Tavala maintained an admirably neutral expression at these unfamiliar proceedings, though Mitchell could read the tension in the commander's posture. I will speak first, Tavala declared. The Survey Corps has been observing this moon for scientific purposes only. We had no knowledge of intelligent inhabitants until Lieutenant Rain's signal. Our intentions are peaceful study, not interference or colonization. Kira's ears flicked forward with interest. Study of what? The unusual thermal properties of this moon, Tavala explained. It shouldn't be able to support life this far from a star, yet it does. We've been monitoring the hive trees, trying to understand their biology. You study trees, not people, Veli asked skeptically. We had no evidence of people until now, Tavala insisted. Our observations were purely botanical and geological. Mitchell saw an opportunity to bridge understanding. Commander, the hive trees are connected to something they call the M, a massive organism beneath the ice. They believe it's the source of the heat that makes life possible here. Tavala's scientific curiosity was immediately piqued. A biological heat source. Our thermal imaging has detected anomalies beneath the surface, but we assumed geological activity. It's more than that, Mitchell continued. The M communicates through vibrations, dreams patterns. Just before your arrival, it was transmitting what I recognized as Morse code, an SOS signal. This revelation clearly startled the commander. That's impossible unless it's attempted contact with humans before, Mitchell finished the thought. A moment of profound silence followed as the implications settled over the circle. Matrons have always known the M remembers old visitors, Kira said quietly. Ones who came before and left marks on its dreaming mind. Tavala leaned forward intently. Matron Kira, this organism could be the most significant discovery in xenobiology of our era. If we could establish communication, study its properties. Study, Veli interrupted sharply. Take samples, dig into flesh of the M. No. Her fur bristled. We have seen sky people study before, always ends in taking. The tension in the circle ratcheted higher. Mitchell watched Tavala's hand drift subtly toward where a sidearm would normally be holstered, though the commander had come unarmed as requested. Old habits. I offer compromise. Ryona spoke suddenly, her voice clear in the tense silence. Observation only. No digging, no taking. Sky people may build watching posts, but with our people present. Learn together, not from distance. Mitchell felt a surge of pride at her diplomatic insight. Joint research teams, he elaborated. Shared knowledge, mutual benefits. Tavala considered this. Collaborative study would be unprecedented, but potentially valuable. We'd need clear agreements on methodology, data sharing, communication protocols. You would teach us to understand your numbers, Kira asked, unexpectedly. Your ways of measuring and recording. Yes, Mitchell answered before Tavala could object. Full exchange of knowledge. Veli growled low. And when you have learned all our secrets, what then? Then we'll have built trust, Mitchell said firmly. Created a foundation for ongoing relations between our peoples. The fire circle fell silent, flames crackling as each participant weighed the proposal. Mitchell could see the calculation in Tavala's eyes, the scientific value versus the risk, the potential for breakthrough discovery against the complexity of cross-species collaboration. I propose trial period, Kira finally said. 2 cycles of light and dark. Build 1 watching post. Show respect for boundaries. Then we speak again in fire circle. Tavala glanced at Mitchell, who gave a subtle nod of encouragement. Agreed, the commander said. 48 hours, one observation station with joint staffing. "We'll need oath," Kira stated, extending her arm over the fire. "Blood speaks truth when words may lie." Tavala hesitated visibly at this ritual request. Mitchell moved first, extending his arm beside Kira's, over the flames. "I stand witness to this oath," he declared, "and pledge my honor to its keeping." After a moment's deliberation, Tavala joined the gesture. Kira produced a small crystal blade, making a tiny symbolic cut on her own palm, before offering the knife. Mitchell took it without hesitation, making a similar small cut before passing it to Tavala. The commander followed suit with military precision. As drops of blood from 3 species sizzled in the sacred fire, Mitchell felt the weight of history in the making. First contact, first alliance, first oath between worlds, all bound in the ancient language of sacrifice and honor. "Fire circle witnesses," Kira proclaimed. "Oath is made, path is set." The following days unfolded with cautious cooperation. Under the terms of the Fire Circle Agreement, a small observation post was established near the base of the hive tree, a prefabricated structure designed to withstand Viral 9's harsh conditions, while housing sensitive monitoring equipment. True to the oath, the post was jointly staffed at all times. Survey Corps scientists worked alongside curious beast people scouts, each learning from the other. Initial wariness gave way to tentative collaboration, as shared purpose bridged cultural gaps. Mitchell found himself in the unlikely role of cultural interpreter, moving between worlds with increasing fluency. To his surprise, Ryona proved equally adept at cross-cultural navigation. Her quick intelligence and natural curiosity made her an ideal liaison, asking insightful questions about human technology while explaining the subtleties of hive society to the befuddled scientists. "Your people walk so loudly," she remarked to Mitchell, as they observed a research team setting up seismic monitors. Step crash. No wonder predators find you easily." Mitchell chuckled. "We don't have your natural stealth. Or your fur padding." "Can teach," Ryona offered, demonstrating a peculiar rolling gait that distributed weight more evenly. Whispered tread. Ancient hunting skill. The Corps engineers watched with fascination as Ryona instructed Mitchell, then tentatively attempted to mimic the technique themselves. By day's end, the humans were moving with noticeably less noise across the ice, a small victory for cross-species learning. Similar exchanges happened throughout the observation post. A Beastwoman healer shared knowledge of medicinal resins with the Corps' medical officer. In return, the doctor explained basic principles of human first aid, demonstrating how to use synthetic bandages and antiseptics. Not all interactions were as harmonious. Veli and her supporters maintained a wary presence, watching for any sign of betrayal. Commander Tavala, meanwhile, continuously pushed the boundaries of the agreement, requesting access to deeper parts of the hive tree or permission to deploy more advanced scanning equipment. "The commander isn't honoring the spirit of our agreement," Mitchell confided to Ryona in the privacy of their nest. "Looking for loopholes, ways to gather more data than was agreed upon." Ryona rumbled thoughtfully. "Sky Leader fears losing opportunity, fears others of your kind will claim discovery." Mitchell was surprised by her insight. "You understand human politics better than I expected." Her mercury eyes gleamed with intelligence. Not so different from hive politics. Power territory status. She groomed his hair absently, a gesture that had become comforting routine. All want to be first, best, strongest. As night fell on the second day of the agreement, the observation post's instruments detected something extraordinary. The seismic patterns emanating from beneath the ice intensified, forming complex sequences that even the Corps' most sophisticated computers struggled to interpret. "It's responding to our presence," theorized one of the scientists, eyes wide with excitement. "These patterns weren't present in any of our previous scans." "The M listens," confirmed Akala, who had joined the research team out of personal interest. "Feels new vibrations, new thoughts. Answers in kind." Commander Tavala paced the small facility, barely containing excitement. This could be the first documented communication with a non-humanoid intelligence. If we could establish a reliable pattern, perhaps a lexicon of responses. Not yet, Mitchell cautioned. We agreed to observation only for these first 48 hours. Tavala fixed him with a hard stare. Lieutenant, the scientific importance of this discovery. We'll still be there after we honor our oath, Mitchell finished firmly. We need the Beast People's trust more than we need immediate answers. The standoff might have escalated further, had a tremor not shaken the entire observation post, at that moment stronger than any previously recorded. Equipment rattled against restraints, and several researchers steadied themselves against walls. That was no communication pattern, Tavala said, alarmed. Akala's ears flattened against her skull. The M is disturbed. Something troubles its dreaming. A second tremor, more violent than the first, sent loose objects crashing to the floor. Outside, the wind picked up, suddenly driving snow against the structure's windows in stinging sheets. Mitchell, Riona, called from the doorway, her expression grave. Matron summon. All representatives to fire circle, now. The fire circle reconvened in the sheltered alcove, this time with greater urgency. The flames danced wildly in sudden gusts that penetrated even this protected space, reflecting the growing agitation felt by all present. The M thrashes in sleep, Kira announced without preamble. Not seen in living memory. Comes with Sky People's digging tools. Tavala bristled. We've deployed only passive sensors as agreed. Nothing invasive. Vibrations still penetrate, Valey countered. Tapping sounds travel through ice to sensitive flesh. Our equipment is simply detecting natural frequencies, one of the core scientists objected. We're not generating significant vibrations. As if in response, another tremor shook the ground stronger than before. Small cracks appeared in the ice around the fire pit. Mitchell felt a growing sense of dread. Something's wrong, he said. These aren't communication patterns anymore. Riona placed her paw on the ground, closing her eyes to better sense the vibrations. Pulse is erratic, she confirmed. Like pain, like fear. The implications struck Mitchell suddenly. The scanning frequencies, he realized. They must be resonating with the M's natural electromagnetic field. It's not our presence, it's our technology. Tavala frowned. You can't seriously suggest that our passive sensors are somehow causing pain to a subterranean organism. Why not? Mitchell challenged. We've seen stranger biological adaptations. If the M evolved in electromagnetic isolation, then suddenly experienced new frequencies. Another violent tremor interrupted, nearly extinguishing the sacred flame. A low, moaning sound seemed to emanate from the ice itself, a sound that raised the fur on every beast person present and sent chills down human spines. Disable all equipment, Mitchell urged Tavala. Immediately. The commander hesitated, visibly torn between scientific opportunity and growing evidence of distress. Commander, Mitchell pressed, if we cause permanent harm to the M, we lose any chance of future study and possibly our lives if these tremors worsen. After a tense moment, Tavala gave a curt nod and spoke into a communicator. All stations power down. Complete shutdown of all monitoring equipment. Acknowledge. One by one, confirmation came from the observation teams. As the last sensors went offline, the company waited in tense silence. Minutes passed. The tremors gradually subsided. The moaning faded, leaving only the wind's howl and the crackling fire. Relief washed over the gathering. The M calms. Kira observed, her voice heavy with significance. Proof is given. Tavala's expression was complex disappointment at the setback mixed with reluctant acceptance of an undeniable correlation. We'll need to completely recalibrate our approach. Perhaps develop new technologies specifically designed not to disturb this organism. As agreed in Fire Circle, Kira reminded firmly. Observation only, no harm. Yes, Tavala conceded, though this complicates our research considerably. Mitchell saw an opening. Perhaps not. If we truly want to understand the M, we need the Beast People's knowledge more than our sensors. Generations of observations, patterns, responses, all carried in their oral histories and daily experiences. Cultural exchange. Riona elaborated, building on his thought. Not just watching from distance, learning to feel pulse as we do. Mitchell watched understanding dawn on Tavalla's face. This wasn't just diplomatic smoothing of feathers, it was a genuine scientific necessity. No amount of technological observation could replace the intimate generation's deep knowledge the beast people possessed. A new approach, then, Tavalla acknowledged. Cultural immersion as scientific methodology. The commander turned to Kira with newfound respect. If your people would teach mine to listen properly. Kira's mercury eyes gleamed in the firelight. Possible. Not easy. Requires time, patience, respect. And what do you ask in return? Tavalla inquired. Knowledge, Kira replied simply. Your ways of recording, your medicine, your understanding of stars. Her gaze moved to the sky, momentarily visible through a break in the clouds. We have always watched stars, wished to know their secrets. The negotiation that followed marked a fundamental shift in the relationship between humans and beast people. No longer was it about permitted research parameters or territorial boundaries, but genuine exchange. Teachers becoming students, observers becoming participants. As formal discussions concluded, Mitchell found himself standing apart with Riona, watching the intermingling of their peoples, with a sense of quiet achievement. Did not expect this outcome when finding broken human in snow. Riona mused, her tail swishing gently against his leg. Mitchell smiled. No regrets about claiming your nest prize. Her purr deepened as she pressed her forehead to his, a gesture that had become their private affirmation. Best find of any scout, she declared with certainty. Worth any challenge. That night, back in their shared nest, Mitchell confronted the question he'd been avoiding since the first fire circle. His official debrief with Tavalla was scheduled for the following day. Decisions about his extraction, his return to duty, could no longer be postponed. Commander will ask if I wish to return to orbit, he said quietly, as Riona groomed his now-healed wounds. Her pause stilled momentarily, though she made no sound. When she resumed her ministrations, her touch seemed more deliberate, more possessive. What will Nest Prize say? She asked, finally her voice carefully neutral. Mitchell covered her paw with his hand, stilling her movement, so he could meet her gaze directly. What would you have me say? The question hung between them, heavy with implication. In the soft bioluminescence of their nest, Riona's mercury eyes searched his face with an intensity that seemed to reach into his very soul. Would ask you to stay, she admitted, a vulnerability in her voice he'd never heard before. But cannot claim what wishes to fly free. Not true bond, not worthy nest. Something broke open in Mitchell's chest at her words, the last resistance to what he'd known, perhaps since that first waking moment in her care. His life before the crash seemed distant, now a half-remembered dream compared to the vivid reality of this existence. I've been a wanderer all my life, he told her. Planet to planet, mission to mission, never staying long enough to belong anywhere. His fingers traced the bioluminescent patterns in her fur, following their hypnotic pulse. For the first time I feel rooted, connected. Riona's ears perked forward, hope kindling in her expression. Choose to stay, choose bond. Instead of answering immediately, Mitchell reached for something he'd been crafting in secret during quiet moments at the observation post. A ceremonial band woven from salvaged metal, from his shuttle inlaid with tiny bioluminescent fragments from the hive tree. A human adaptation of a beast-person bonding token. In my culture, he explained, offering it to her, we exchange symbols when we choose a permanent bond. Riona's eyes widened at the gesture. With trembling paws, she accepted the token, examining its craftsmanship, before slipping it onto her left horn, the traditional place for a mate's marking. In return, she removed one of her own horn ornaments, a delicate spiral of crystalline material, etched with patterns that matched the bioluminescence in her fur. With solemn care, she fastened it to Mitchell's wrist. Bound by choice, she said the formal phrase of acceptance in her culture. Stronger than blood or duty. Mitchell repeated the words, sealing their pact in the traditions of her people. Bound by choice. Stronger than blood or duty. As they settled into their nest that night, bodies entwined in what had become their natural repose, Mitchell found his decision clarifying, rather than troubling him. Tomorrow, he would tell Tavala. There would be protocols to navigate paperwork to complete a first-of-its-kind diplomatic posting, perhaps. But those were details. The essence was already decided, had perhaps been decided from the moment Riona found him dying in the snow and claimed him as her prize. He belonged here now in this strange, beautiful world of ice and fire, with her. The formal meeting with Commander Tavala took place in the observation post now, reconfigured with technology, specifically designed not to disturb the M. The commander's expression upon hearing Mitchell's decision was unsurprised, but complex. "You understand the precedent this sets," Tavala said, after a long silence. "No Corps officer has ever requested permanent assignment to a non-human society." "I understand," Mitchell confirmed. "I'm prepared to resign my commission if necessary." Tavala waved this away. "Let's not be hasty. This situation may actually serve Corps interests, diplomatically speaking." The commander considered him thoughtfully. "An official liaison position could be created. You'd maintain your rank file, regular reports facilitate ongoing communication between our peoples." Mitchell hadn't expected such a practical solution. "You're not going to fight this?" A rare smile crossed Tavala's face. "Lieutenant, I've commanded you for 5 years. In all that time, I've never seen you at peace. Now suddenly you are." The commander glanced meaningfully toward where Riona waited outside. "Besides, your bond creates a unique diplomatic opportunity. The first formal alliance between humans and the people of Viral 9. With surprising efficiency, the administrative details were arranged. A small communications array carefully calibrated, not to disturb the M, was established in Mitchell's territory within the hive tree. Weekly reports would be transmitted to the orbital station, which would maintain a minimal presence for emergency support only. True to the Fire Circle agreement, all extraction of materials from Viral 9 was halted. Only observational outposts were approved, each jointly staffed and operating under strict protocols developed with matron input. Cultural exchange flourished beyond expectations. Engineers learned the Beast People's whispered tread for traversing ice fields. Matrons learned to interpret data visualizations and maintain digital records of their oral histories. Medical techniques merged in fascinating hybrids of technology and natural compounds. Throughout it all, Mitchell and Riona served as the living bridge between worlds. Their partnership, bizarre and unthinkable just weeks earlier, became the template for cooperation. Where words failed, they demonstrated through action. Where cultural barriers arose, they found pathways through. On the first anniversary of the crash, a special fire circle was convened. Representatives from 3 additional hives joined the gathering, along with a diplomatic delegation from the Survey Corps' highest echelons. As the sacred flame illuminated faces, both human and beast person, Mitchell reflected on the journey that had brought him here. From dying alone in the snow to standing as honored liaison between species. From self-reliant loner to devoted partner. The negotiations continued into the night, voices rising and falling like the flames themselves. New agreements were formed. New understandings reached. The foundation laid for a relationship that might span generations. Later, back in the nest that had become more home than any quarters he'd ever occupied, Mitchell watched the soft pulse of bioluminescence flow through Riona's fur as she slept beside him. The patterns matched the rhythm of the larger pulse beneath them. The M, dreaming its ancient dreams beneath the ice. Riona stirred her mercury eyes opening to find him watching her. "Troubled thoughts," she murmured. "Grateful ones," he corrected, tracing the line of her jaw. "Thinking about that day in the snow. How close I came to never knowing this life. She rumbled with contentment, pulling him closer into her warmth. Universe has strange paths, she observed sleepily. Leads broken things to where they mend best. Mitchell smiled at her wisdom. Once he had been Lieutenant Mitchell Rain, renowned scout pilot, always moving, never belonging. Now, he was simply Mitchell, nest-bonded to Ryona, rooted in the living heart of a world he once thought barren. Outside their chamber, the auroras of Viral 9 danced across the night sky, casting their multicolored light through the translucent walls of the hive tree. Below, the M pulsed in its ancient rhythm. Above, the stars beckoned with their familiar promise of adventure. But here, in this moment, wrapped in the velvet embrace of his unlikely savior, Mitchell had found something far rarer than adventure or accomplishment. He had found home,